I'm going to try to not explode during this podcast. And I mean physically, my head to explode. I'm going to try my hardest to not allow that to happen. I am going to rip this football team. I'm going to rip the coaching staff. But before I get to that, I actually want to start with a bit of good news from yesterday's game. That awful game that we woke up to watch yesterday. And the good news was Drake Maye. So let me start with Drake Maye. Let me break down what we saw from Drake. I'll give you some analytics, some statistics that'll make you feel good. I don't want this podcast to be 100% Rip City, only about 90% Rip City. So let's start with Drake Maye. You have to feel good about Maye after watching him play the last 2 weeks. If you thought his first game against Houston was good, you have to believe his next game that we saw yesterday against Jacksonville was even better. And I thought Drake Maye was really good for most of this game. I thought Drake Maye was great in the first quarter. 8 for 10, 87 yards, 1 touchdown, in full command. In full command at the line of scrimmage. Extending plays, understanding what he's seeing in front of him, mostly accurate, diagnosing the defense. That touchdown to Jermichael Hasty was great quarterback play. He knows what he sees in front of him. He understands the blitz is going to come. He understands where the blitz is coming from. He understands that he can get Hasty one-on-one to the outside if he gets rid of the football quick enough. He gets rid of the football quickly to Hasty. Hasty has that one-on-one, makes a move, touchdown. That's what you want to see from your rookie quarterback. That's what you want to see from Maye. Not only the physical attributes that we talk about, the athleticism, the arm, all of that. You want to see this young man understand football. You want to see him understand the defense, what teams are trying to do against him, and how he can combat that. And that touchdown to Hasty was a perfect example of Maye understanding what was happening and reacting to it as the quarterback and reacting to it perfectly. You could just put that play right there on a mantle and say, he's learning, he's progressing. That's a step in the right direction. He was calm in the pocket. Thanks to the offensive line in part, which we'll get to. We were going crazy about the offensive line. Rightfully so. The offensive line through the first 5 or 6 weeks was not good, right? Last couple of weeks, they've been better. But I thought Maye was calm in the pocket. I did not understand why Alex Van Pelt went away from Drake Maye after that first quarter, which we'll get to. Because if I'm the offensive coordinator and I'm watching my young quarterback play at the level that he's playing at, we jump out to a 10-zip lead. I'm putting my foot on the gas. We're 1-5. We need this win. Jacksonville is not good against the pass. We talked about it last Friday. This defense was in perfect position to get beat down by the Patriots if they called the game correctly. Again, we'll get to Alex Van Pelt. But if I'm Van Pelt, I'm leaning into my young quarterback after watching him start this game the way he started it. That's not what happened, as we know, unfortunately. But I thought Maye was terrific in that first quarter. I thought he was pretty damn good in this game. I thought in the fourth quarter, when they got down a decent amount, then they decided to put the game more into the hands of Maye. I thought in the fourth quarter, Maye was pretty good. He gave Hunter Henry the one-on-one shot down the middle, right? Risky throw, but we talk about that. Those are throws that Maye is going to make. He's going to trust his guys. He gets that ball to Henry. Henry, great freaking play. Great catch. The Kayshon Boutte, second week in a row. Kayshon Boutte down the sideline, one-on-one coverage, bucket throw right over the top, perfect dime. Great catch by Boutte. The Osborne touchdown. Thought it was a great read. Understood what was happening in front of him. Chose the right option. Zipped it in perfectly for the Osborne touchdown. So when Drake Maye was given a chance, I thought he made the absolute most out of his opportunities. And you walk away from that game yesterday, you can feel bad about mostly everything else. But you walk away from that game yesterday feeling, at least I did, even better about Maye than you did post-Houston. I thought he was really good. And the analytics back that up. Heading into Monday Night Football tonight, Drake Maye is 7th in the league in passer rating for Week 7. He's 9th in the league in completion percentage over expected. He is 6th. He is 6th in EPA. He is 6th in EPA per dropback. So when you look at the performance from Maye analytically, he was a top 10 quarterback on Sunday. And yes, again, it was an easier matchup for him than Houston, but you want to see him take advantage of those kinds of things, put up some numbers, and put the performance that we saw from him out there for the world to see. And it was the second straight week that Maye had to fight through adversity. Once again, we saw it. No run game, right? Ramondre Stevenson was out there, but he was a shell of himself. He had 7 carries, 18 yards, something ridiculous. They could not run the football yesterday. Stevenson couldn't run the ball. Gibson couldn't run the ball. Nobody could run the football. You're a one-dimensional offense. No run game. Bad play calling, which we'll get to with Van Pelt a little bit later, but Maye has to deal with bad play calling. Oh, and by the way, his best receiver, Pop Douglas, in a matchup that was perfect for them. We said it on Friday. The Jaguars, one of the worst, if not the worst teams against slot receivers in football. The passer rating was like above 128 going into that game yesterday. And your number one receiver, your slot receiver, Pop Douglas, guess what? He's sick. He's throwing up. He could hardly focus, he told Andrew Callahan. So you have no run game. You've got an offensive coordinator who is not doing a good job. You lost your best receiver for most of that game due to illness, so no Pop Douglas, a matchup that you could have picked apart all day long. You have offensive line pieces moving yet again. And there you are, right? Layden Robinson goes out. You slide City So in. You've got all of this going on around you. Your first game in London. You got to get used to the schedule. I mean, there are so many reasons why Maye could have tapped out. There were so many reasons why your young quarterback could have failed yesterday, even with the really good matchup. But he didn't fail. He played even better than he played against Houston. With all of that going on, let's talk about the offensive line for a minute. Because for the second straight week, the offensive line was not an absolute train wreck in pass protection. We can talk about the run game and the issues there. But when you talk about continuity up front, a lot of that, especially with what Van Pelt wants to run with this run game, right? The idea of the zone runs and all of that. The way they want to run the football, getting continuity up front is pretty vital. The communication between the guys up front, understanding what one is going to do, right? You heard Joe Thomas during that game yesterday. He mentioned it a bunch. That's one of the best left tackles we've ever seen play the game of football. And Thomas was in that broadcast booth yesterday in London telling all of us, if you don't have that continuity up front, it's really difficult for an offensive lineman to find his rhythm, to get going, especially in the run game. But in pass protection, the last 2 weeks, and this is helped by Drake Maye. Don't get it twisted. Maye's ability to move around the pocket, to break contain, to extend plays, all of that helps the offensive line. The offensive line the last 2 weeks, they've done a good enough job. Silver lining. Evan Lazar wrote, on the initial charting data, the Patriots only allowed a 33.3% pressure rate in the loss to Jacksonville. A few three-man stunts got home, which has been a consistent problem. And again, the stunts, that talks about the communication, understanding what someone has to do and why they've got to do it and at what time. But the one-on-one blocking, Lazar wrote, seemed to hold up somewhat well this week. The initial pressure stats via Pro Football Focus, City So, who was not supposed to be playing, came in for Layden Robinson. He gave up 3 hurries. Layden Robinson, who left, gave up 2 hurries. Trey Jacobs, left tackle, gave up 2 hurries. Michael Jordan, left guard, gave up 2. And then you had Ben Brown and Michael Wenu giving up 1 pressure each. Taylor Kyles tweeted out today, per Pro Football Focus, Patriots have allowed pressure on fewer than 40% of dropbacks 2 weeks in a row, which had not happened in any other game. Their 7.1% knockdown rate allowed was nearly half their previous season low of 12.5% versus the Seattle Seahawks. So the offensive line, the pass protection has been better. Maye helps that, no doubt. But these guys up front, they've gotten better the last couple of weeks versus what they were before the first, month, 5 weeks of the season. And we can chalk it up somewhat yesterday to the matchup because, as we talked about, the pressure rate from Jacksonville isn't great. They're not awesome at rushing the passer. they're towards the bottom of the league when it comes to that. But you can certainly look at the Houston game, a defense that does pressure the quarterback, one of the best pass rushes in football, and the offensive line, along with Drake Maye, did a pretty good job. And I think looking at Maye and figuring if you had your starting offensive line out there, we would not have had the ultimate disaster that we saw through the first 4 weeks, 5 weeks, if the last 2 weeks are any kind of indication. But at least we see the last 2 weeks, the offensive line, that pass protection is better. Drake Maye has more time. He's had cleaner pockets. It's good to see, if not great to see. Now, it wasn't all awesome for Drake Maye. He did have 2 turnover-worthy plays. He got away with 2 passes that could have been picked, one that was essentially picked but ripped out by the receiver, and he had 1 in the red zone. I don't know if that was a miscommunication, a back shoulder. He was looking for Austin Hooper. He's fortunate that Cisco did not pick that pass off. So it wasn't a flawless performance. But as we've talked about with Drake Maye, you're not going to get flawless performances. You're going to have some of those plays. You're going to have some of those throws. You're going to have some of those misses. He probably had 4 or 5, maybe even more misses on his throws yesterday. You're going to have to live through that. It's part of the development process. It's also part of who Drake Maye is. Right now, at this point in his career, he's going to miss some throws. And you have to be ready for that because he's also going to make plays. He's also going to extend plays and find Hunter Henry in the middle of the field like he did yesterday. He's going to make those kinds of plays. He's going to make those kinds of bucket throws down the sideline to Kayshon Boutte. He's going to make those plus plays. You just want the plus plays to eventually outweigh the negative plays. And with the eye test, I think Maye did that yesterday. Now, I haven't gone through the game. I haven't watched the all 22, but just watching that game yesterday, it felt like there was more good from Maye than bad. And against Houston, it was more bad than good, maybe at best even. So it's a step in the right direction. I am legitimately excited about his play. I think you should be excited about his play. I'm not telling you that he's going to be a Hall of Famer. I'm not telling you he's going to be a top 5 quarterback in the league. All I can tell you is this. The first 2 weeks, the first 2 starts of Drake Maye's career have gone pretty damn well, all things considered. He got better in week 2 from week 1. So we'll see what happens moving forward. But I think it's absolutely allowed for all of us to look at one of the things that's actually exciting about this football team and that you can feel good about right now. It is perfectly fine to feel good about Drake Maye and feel optimistic about the young man after what we've seen the last 2 weeks.